Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June meeting of the Historical Commission's Architectural Review Committee. And we will begin by having committee members introduce themselves. So, Allison.
Morning, Allison Lakachik, committee.
Amy.
Good morning, Amy Stein, committee.
John.
John Clover of the committee.
Justin.
Justin Detweiler of the committee.
Sam.
Sam Weiner of the committee.
And Nan.
Nan Gutterman, committee.
And I'm Dan McCubry, committee chair. And before we start, Executive Director John Farnham will read some procedures and protocols for today's meeting.
Thank you. Good morning. As the chair said, my name is John Farnham. A couple of quick notes about the meeting. The meeting is being recorded, and by participating in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. The recording will be available after the meeting on the Historical Commission's website, www.phila.gov/historical. Also on that website, you will find the agenda for the meeting, all applications that will be reviewed at this meeting, and also all public comment that was received by noon yesterday. Every agenda item includes an opportunity for comment. If you'd like to comment, you'll need to raise your hand using the Zoom feature to raise hand. If you happen to be on a standard telephone, *9 to raise your hand. Once you've been acknowledged to speak by the chair, you will have to unmute yourself from your end. We'll unmute you from our end, but you'll also have to do it from your end. And if you happen to be on a standard telephone, *6 to mute and unmute. The committee typically makes its decisions by unanimous consent, but if the committee members fail to concur, we can conduct a roll call vote. And then finally, the Historical Commission has adopted guidelines for conduct at its meeting. Those guidelines include stipulations of order of presentation, time limits, those sorts of things. If you're unfamiliar with them, please take a look at them. They are on the Commission's website, on the public meetings page of the website, where you'll also find the agendas, applications, and comment. With that, I will turn it to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And moving to the first item on the agenda, it's the 1000 block of Spruce Street. 1000 Spruce Street.
All right. I hope folks can see that on the screen there.
We can see it.
All right. Please elevate Ryan Salimio, I hope I got that right, and Rustin Oler to panelist. I'm Dan Chahar-Krasnov, and I will read a brief overview. This application proposes alterations to the row house at 1000 Spruce Street, constructed in 1872, including the rehabilitation of the ground floor commercial space and 7 apartments and the expansion of a 1-story mid-century commercial building with a 2-story addition and roof deck. Exterior alterations would include reopening the glazed storefront on the east facade, constructing the roof decks, demolishing a non-contributing hyphen, and constructing a 2-story addition on a 1-story commercial building at the rear of South 10th Street. The roof decks do not appear to be visible directly across South 10th or Spruce Streets. The addition will be clad in brick to match the primary facade of the 1-story commercial building. The staff recommendation is approval, provided a cornice and/or other restrained ornament is added to the addition to the commercial building pursuant to standards 2 and 9. The applicants can now go ahead. They may want to address the specific staff recommendation, but keep in mind the committee members have already reviewed the proposal, so there's no need for a particularly detailed recitation of what's in the proposal. And with that, I'll turn it to the applicants.
Thank you, Dan.
Hi, Rustin Oler, Harmon Deutsch Oler Architecture. We received staff comments and agreed to work with them on adding the ornamentation to the addition to the rear, and are open to committee's feedback on that as well. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have in regards to the specifics of the proposal.
So Rustin, I have two comments. I guess the first is regards to the visibility of the pilot houses. And you've shown us diagrams that show that it presumably is not visible from 10th or Spruce Street. But because it is a corner lot, there will be a diagonal view from sort of catty corner from the house.
We think it's possible that driving down, I can't remember if 10th Street goes up or down, but from further up 10th Street, that the pilot house on the existing building would be somewhat visible. The further you got away, of course. So we've tried to make the railings as open and as minimal as possible. We've set the pilot houses into the center of the building. The configuration of the upper floors, it's kind of the only place that they could go. So we tried to bury them on the property line as far away from the corner as possible and still have them function and work.
My other question is regarding the infills on this elevation at the lowest level windows. We see a kind of a brown area.
So those are currently that way. They're currently infilled. Oh, so no, I think you're talking about the two to the left, right?
Yeah, that one
Yeah.
and the one opposite. And then there's also, looks like an infill of that arch head window.
There's like an air conditioning unit in that window at the moment. So essentially, we don't have a ground floor tenant yet. And we will work with staff on how we repair or replace those windows once there's a tenant in place. At the moment, there used to be a storefront at the corner. It used to wrap, and there's some historic photos in here of what that looked like. So what we're proposing right now is to open that back up and match the storefront that's on the Spruce Street side onto the 10th Street side. And then anything that we would do with the lower infills, which are currently infilled, you can see in that upper right photo there. The second one has the air conditioning unit in it.
Yeah.
The other two are infilled. We'll work with staff and on staff details to repair and replace those once we have a tenant.
And I would just add, it's nice to see one of these old storefronts open back up rather than closed up.
I have a question for Dan. The staff summary did not talk about the roof guidelines. And, this roof deck is covering pretty much the entirety of the roof. Yes, it has the 5-foot setbacks, but my memory from previous reviews is correct. This is kind of bigger than we would typically say is compliant with the roof guidelines. Can you talk about that portion of your staff review at all?
Well, I will say, having brought that up, I should have probably added the roof guidelines here. I think our staff feeling was that they are setting the roof deck back from the street along the 10th Street facade. And it is somewhat set back, I think 5 feet from the Spruce Street facade. So we felt that there was an effort to make these as minimally visible as possible, but adding the roof guideline to the application probably would have been helpful, or to the analysis, I should say.
Because, typically when, we have these, we say, roof decks go on the rear L. When there is no rear L, it goes on the back half of the building. So, there are not one, but two roof decks, not one, but two pilot houses here. So it feels, and I can appreciate that each roof deck serves a different unit. At the same point, it still feels like a lot of roof deck relative to the building.
One thing I will say is that because of the location of this property, if they had set it at the back of the main building there, it would have only increased the visibility of the pilot houses on 10th Street. So I think they've situated these as close to as inconspicuous a place as possible. in this situation, but obviously it's your place to, as the committee, to recommend to the commission what you feel is appropriate.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want to make it where the
Sure.
staff recommendation is in some way blunting your ability to do that.
Thank you for the clarification. So Rustin, sort of shifting my comments.
Yeah.
Over to you. I mean, recognizing that this is serving two different units, but looking at the way those stairs are configured, is there not a way to essentially combine these into a single stair, have them come up like the lower flight to a common landing? I mean, their landings are in essence cheek to cheek.
Yeah.
And then have a shared stair going up to the roof deck.
So the building code doesn't allow us to do that, right? Because then I create a common roof deck, which requires 2 stair towers and 2 means off the deck and all the way down. So
Even if the capacity is less than 50 people?
if it's shared by more than 1 unit, yeah. So then it becomes a common deck to 2 units. So it has to be fully within the unit to be considered a private deck. Those would have larger stairs, larger implications, and larger pilot houses because then they become common commercial stairs instead of in-unit residential stairs, which have a tighter rise run. We're trying to keep the majority of the existing building, and these go over the existing staircase where the existing staircase is within the building as well. As Dan had mentioned, we did look at just setting the roof deck or pilot houses on just one portion of the building as per the standard, but that does create actually, more of a visibility. So what we did is we chose to set it back from all 3 sides instead. I think we can look at the overall height to maybe get the height of this to the bare minimum or code minimum. We can look at the setback from Spruce Street to see if there's anything we can do there before we get to the commission.
I think another thing that might help reduce visibility is those kind of the cornice on top of the pilot houses, the little projecting eave, if those were simply very minimal or flat detail.
We can tighten that up and get rid of those.
Yeah.
Rustin, how tall are they? The dimensions in the whole packet are kind of blurry. Maybe it's from the size or shrinking of the PDF, but so I wasn't able to really read any of the dimensions.
We zoned them at 10 feet, but I think they're only drafted at 9 feet, which gives you 8-foot clear inside.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure they're as short as they can be.
Yeah. So it's an 8-foot ceiling inside. I mean, that's a 6'8" door that you're seeing there.
Okay.
There's a very minimal curb around the top of this existing roof. In order to reduce the height further, instead of a roof deck, you would normally build it on an existing building. You would build a structure over the deck.
Right.
Instead, what we've done is we've made sure that the roof is engineered in such a point that it's pedestal paver, so that's even lower. So even the paver system for the deck is concealed behind that existing low parapet. So that helped also help us shrink the height of it. So we've done everything we thought that we could to try and tighten that up, but we can look at the setbacks of the railing further and eliminating that overhang and cornice up there.
Yeah, for me, it's the the what you've got is kind of that brown hatch, the perpendicular sticking forward towards east. If that could turn 90 degrees, I think it would be less visible. That piece, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what we can do.
I mean, this may be a situation where a little mock-up would be helpful, just to ascertain the visibility.
These corners have such long views.
Yeah.
This is why we're struggling over this as much as we are.
Because
The other question. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the mock-up is something we often do with when we get further into the application process with the proposals.
Well, I think we should suggest that a mock-up be constructed here because of the corner location.
I had one more question. So we're looking at this rear elevation, which has all these wonderful original bays on it. which this is an individually designated building in addition to the fact that it's in a district. So I appreciate that you're preserving as much of this as you are. How far is the new second and third floor overbuild from the face of that upper dormer?
Sure. You can see it in the side elevation. We are pretty close though. I think it's about 3 feet from the top
Yeah.
dormer.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, those people are going to look right at a blank wall.
Yeah. I mean, currently the bays at the lower floor are all concealed inside. So we're going to open up and restore those. But yeah, at the upper floor, we are close, but again, it's
Is
building on.
that,
Go ahead.
is there a code setback for that from a window?
There is, so we'll meet the building code requirements for all of that. There's no windows placed on the new addition side. So our fire separation distance will be to the new building addition.
Yeah, it's tough because you're working off of the existing footprint.
Correct.
I wish this thing was slid a few feet to the south, but I get where you're coming from. I do think setting those upper 2 floors back helps bring more light into the rear of that building, which is a good thing for those units.
Yeah, we had met with staff on that before we started designing the addition about whether it made sense and where and how to shift that addition. So that's why we proposed to set that back. It allowed more of the rear of the original building to be seen.
I appreciate that because I think it helps. It helps.
All right, do we have other comments from committee members? Is there public comment?
No hands are raised.
All right, then we're ready for a motion.
All right. Why am I always the one who's doing it? It feels like.
Nobody wanted to go first, John. Sorry.
All right. I'm to tell you, the roof deck has me is what is giving me pause. I don't like it.
I will make a motion.
I understand the reasons, but I don't like it.
Sam wants to volunteer, John.
This will be my first motion, Rustin, so bear with me if I don't get the language correct. But I make a motion for approval, provided a cornice and other restrained ornament is added to the addition to the commercial building pursuant to standards 2 and 9.
What I'm struggling with is how to, I would second that motion, but what I'm struggling with is the addition of some language about mocking up and studying the pilot houses and the reconfiguration of the pilot houses.
Yeah, we'd be happy to work with staff on that if you want to try and include that somehow.
All right, well,
Yeah, because it's, well, I mean, the thing with these roof decks, I'm sorry, we're now reopening the conversation, I guess, but is that it's not just pilot houses. Because, I mean, yes, you've got guardrails and we're showing signs, visibility to guardrails, but then there's always stuff that ends up on these roof decks.
That's not something in our purview to control if somebody wants to put something on their roof deck.
Correct, but that's also why we set limits on roof decks and the visibility of roof decks, and why there are roof guidelines that say keep it to the back half of the main block and things like that.
I think this is a case where mock-ups will be very helpful, and reduction and reduction in elements, the cornice of the pilot house and potentially its configuration. I think we need to include those items in the motion. Right. So does somebody want to add to Sam's motion?
Don't we have to see if Sam accepts the proposed modifications to his motion?
I don't think we have the
We
modifications
don't have the
stated yet.
proposed one.
Well, then I guess the
Then-
question is, Sam, do you withdraw your motion?
Hmm.
So we can try again.
For the sake of expediting the motion, I will retract my motion, although I still agree with my motion.
Understood.
Mhm.
So I will try again. I make a motion of going with the staff recommendations of approval of the design pursuant to standards 2 and 9, and provided a cornice or other restrained ornament is added to the addition to the commercial building pursuant to standards 2 and 9, and that the applicant work with the staff. I also propose that a mock-up be done in the field to determine the height and the visibility of the two pilot houses on the historic designated building, and that perhaps modifications be made to lower the cornice or reduce overhangs or limit the visibility of the pilot houses more in accordance with the roof guidelines.
Second that.
All right, well, let's have a roll call.
John, do you want me to do that?
I can do that, Dan. I'm sorry. I was some reason my window reduced when I tried to open it. Let's see. Committee member Lukacs,
Aye.
committee member Stein,
Aye.
committee member Kluver,
Nay.
committee member Detweiler,
Aye.
committee member Weiner.
Sam, you're muted.
Aye. Sorry, Dan.
It's okay.
Committee member Gutterman
Aye.
and Chair McCougry.
Aye.
So the vote is 6-1 in favor of the motion.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Rustin. All right, we have 1 minute before the next item. One of those long minutes. All right, it's 9:25, so we'll move to the next item on the agenda, 1800 Tasker Street.
Good morning. This is Heather Hendrickson with the staff. If we could please elevate Dane Jensen for this application, who is the owner, and also Andrew Cole from Trotter Cole Advisory. I'll read a brief overview of the project. The structure at 1800 Tasker Street is a historic church building currently being converted for commercial use. As part of this adaptive reuse project, the property owner proposes to install a hand-painted mural on the west facade of the building. The mural is intended to reflect the character of the surrounding neighborhood and to respond to the requests of adjacent residents who face the mural wall and who have expressed a desire for a vibrant, community-oriented artwork at this location. The project is being managed by Trotter Cole Advisory, a public art consulting firm based in Philadelphia. They will lead artist selection, community engagement, and all aspects of project management through final installation. The mural will be hand-painted directly on the wall surface by an artist selected through a structured community process. The west wall has recently been and continues to be refinished as part of permitted masonry work undertaken by O'Neill Masonry. The mural will be directly applied to the newly restored lime plaster surface once all masonry work is complete. The proposed materials are acrylic paint and an anti-graffiti coating, both of which are vapor permeable. The staff recommends approval for this project with staff to review details, including final paint and sealant choices pursuant to Standard 9.
Thank you, Heather. Is the applicant with us?
Yes. Hi, I'm Dane.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you all. Thanks for considering this application. So this project arose out of our meetings with the community about the project. It's a big, we're utilizing the zoning exception. So it's obviously a big change to the neighborhood, and we're trying to do everything we can to be proactive with them. And so this came up, a neighbor who lives on the rear block was, had said that she can see this big back of the church. Are we going to be restoring? There's a kind of dilapidated frame of an old stained glass window there. That's one that we are ultimately sacrificing for the elevator because all the glass is missing anyway, and for ADA access, and all that is already permitted and underway. So I shared with her, I said, hey, that's going to be essentially a big new wall, but would you like if we put a mural on it? You'd have to ask the Historic Commission, but that would definitely be better than a big blank wall. And so there was good community engagement about that and interest. The idea of having a local artist, something that is pro-community, seemed to be appealing to many neighbors. And so that's why we're here. We're very open to any way you would want us to do it. Means and methods. I know O'Neill Masonry has done a fair amount of historic commission or work on historic properties on the registry. And so he has said what he thinks you guys will think is best, but we're definitely open to any suggestions. The vast majority of this mural would not be visible from the street. There is a section that we realized could be visible. You can see there, which I think could be interesting. Otherwise, it would be, the basic plaster that we're using to restore it. Currently, it's this very mottled, messy, kind of daubed-on plaster. That section is also a section that if you were like, you know what, we really are okay with this, but we don't want you to be able to see it from the street at all, we could remove that. If the version of the elevation that has the purple on it as well kind of has a breakdown of where that seam could be. The purple on this elevation is what is new build on top of the old build. So this is the equipment pads and the extension necessary to make the elevator work. And again, all of this is already permitted. But we could do all of the red box, or if you come back and say, no, we really are not okay with this at all, I can share that with the community. But we're hoping that we could get some kind of beautification of this rear wall and an opportunity for some public art.
Dane, I have a question about the materiality. Is this all stucco, or is the mural going over any brick areas? I couldn't quite tell from the photos that were submitted.
Yeah, so the rear of the building is all currently that kind of heavy daubed stucco, and it's in not very good shape.
Like a
And so,
cottage finish stucco, basically.
yeah, like the thickest, like the big curds, though, you know. Uh, and so the restoration, so we are, because we're over framing up, um, the solution has been to, and it will be mixed of, you know, partially where this old window was. The plan has been to replace it with a plaster that is good for the underlying brick, but will seamlessly, you know, be a finish for the whole back of the building. But it is currently stucco, yeah.
And then in this photograph, we are looking at 3 windows in the gable end of, I guess it's the church transept.
Yeah.
And the 2 small ones are going to disappear altogether. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the big
Yeah.
one and both small ones will be disappearing.
Completely. Okay.
Yeah, so almost all of the glass is gone from those. We are going to be, many of the other stained glass windows in the building are being restored. So can you guys see my cursor? My guess is no.
I don't think we can. The staff will.
The 2 large windows in the main chapel, which the left side of this box is kind of over the I guess dormer that is that window. Yeah, all the ones in this that you can see here are being restored. The ones along 18th Street are all being restored, with the exception of there's one large one on 18th Street that also is missing all glass. So we're going to be restoring the woodwork of it and maintaining that, but it will be clear glass because there's no glass remaining. But there are also 2 windows flanking the bottom of that space that will be restored. There are some double hung windows that are in the added mezzanine that you can see a sliver of here on the left, that we're restoring, and we're actually getting new double hung windows with the weight and chain, and have figured out a way to have that not only have the visual look of what was there, but also the feel. But the ones along the back, we're missing the glass, and yeah, so the one, yeah, you can see them there. The ones along the back are missing the glass, and then needing to put an elevator somewhere to meet ADA criteria. It was the sacrificial lamb.
Understood. So can we go back to the purple and red diagram? Just, I think. There we go. So the window that we see in that's the window that's gone.
That is being no, the window that's you can see to the left here, that one's being restored.
I see.
The one that's gone in this image is gone.
Gone. I got you. Okay.
And to be fair,
that's
it's
all already permitted, right?
Yeah.
All of that is already permitted. Yeah.
So.
And the one that's gone, there wasn't any glass to restore,
Yeah.
and so we're getting to use the colors to match the other windows as much as possible. There are bits and bobs.
So what we're seeing in purple is, as you said, a vertical overbuild above the existing wall.
Correct.
And it's going to be stuccoed. All right.
I will say that I have been following this project, and I know that you're doing incredible amounts of preservation work here, and I commend you for that. I know that you're basically putting a mural here that is largely not in public view to make the neighbors feel better. And I think that that's very honorable. And as long as, in my opinion, as long as it is done in such a way that it adheres in the correct way and allows the building to breathe, I have no issue with it.
So I would echo those sentiments, although I would ask the question, have you by chance talked to Mural Arts at all about the techniques that they use?
Yeah, so we ended up working with the folks we're working with, and I think we have them on the line and they can speak to this. But because I did reach out to Mural Arts, originally we were not realizing there would be any public facing part of this. And since Mural Arts does not do non-public murals, but it also, we're not looking for funding. We're looking for expertise. And so that's how we ended up with the Trotter Cole advisory, who I'll let Andrew speak to their experience.
And it's less that I'll say the management and the funding, it's more the technique. Because I know often Mural Arts will do something gets applied to the wall instead of painted directly on the wall. And I think it was based on some past experience that they had. I don't object to the painting directly on the wall. But I just caution or ask that, maybe you ask them to review the technique as well to see if they have any lessons learned that could be applied. Because I think sometimes when the paint is applied directly to the stucco, the failure happens, paint failure happens more quickly.
Yes, I'm going to let Andrew Cole of Trotter Cole Advisory jump in and kind of speak to their experience both with Mural Arts and with murals. He's the expert and I am not.
Sure.
I'll speak to him.
Good.
Well, thank you all very much for having me and taking the time to review this wonderful project that my partner and I are very excited to be working on at Trotter Cole Advisory. To the point of the materials and sort of what is best practices, best in class for such a project, the materials, the application, everything that you kind of would get from Mural Arts is what we had submitted to the project. So there's going to be no differentiation in that sort of professional approach and understanding of the techniques that they use. My partner, Elizabeth Clark, has worked very closely with Mural Arts in the past. That's part of the expertise and experience that we bring. She on the project management logistics side, me on the sort of artist and I would say aesthetic side. So when it does come to it and we hopefully move forward, we'll have a sort of short list of artists ready to be vetted, but those techniques were already baked into the proposal and are available for review.
The technique that was presented within the application with the paint directly applied, what is the projected durability, lifespan, maintenance, etc. on that?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? It was a little crackly.
So, pardon, I don't know why. There is there's a procedure or a process that was submitted with this about hand painting directly on the wall. Can you talk about the durability of the process, the expected durability of that process that is being
Yes, so that
applied
is
for?
So what I can speak to is that is in line with anything that you would get from the Mural Arts sort of materials and techniques. So that is kind of the standard that we live up to. My partner, again, who is more of an expert in that area, I could get the answer from her and we'll look into it. But again, the caliber of work in which we do is, again, on par, and the research into the materials will be the same that you would get from a Mural Arts type project. But to Dane's point, the funding was kind of what brought us in, or
Sure. No, that part I understand.
So just to, Andrew, I hope it's okay, and I hope
Please,
Ellie would be okay with me sharing this. But so Ellie previously was at Mural Arts making these calls for them. So so we are using the best practices that Mural Art. We're happy to do whatever the commission would want if there are alternative methods. But in terms of consulting with Mural Arts, that's how I ran into these guys in the first place. Because Mural Arts was like, oh, well, it's privately funded and not visible from the street. It's not really a good fit. And these folks have that experience. And, Ellie was at Mural Arts for a while. And so that's kind of how we got here. But again, I'm not married to any of it. I defer to all of y'all experts on the best way to do this. So if there are other suggestions about how to make it workable and good for the building, I think all of our needs are aligned.
And I am not an expert on this particular issue. I just recall previous presentations given by Mural Arts where they said that they've shifted their technique, and maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe this is what they shifted to. I just know that there have been failures in the past that they were addressing. So that was the only reason I raise it, and I can defer to those who deal with this on a more regular basis than I.
I think they have presented some to us that were directly applied. I know that they also use that, for lack of a better term, airplane cloth to adhere, but it also has other benefits like being able to paint it off site and things like that. But as far as I understand, they do apply some of them directly to the building. I think there is a lifespan to it. But I think that's kind of anything painted onto stucco would have that.
I believe the staff is familiar also with this technique, as I recall in some of the material. But it seems that the perm ratings for the various coatings, I mean, that you want to be able to achieve a certain permeability, and presumably that's quite well understood.
Shall we reach out for public comment?
Yeah. Do we have other comments? No comment. Other comments.
Do we need to discuss whether or not we're okay with the entire area? Or, I mean, that was one of the questions. We have 2 red boxes, the entire area or just the non-public part. So I figured we'd go on record. I'm okay with the entire area. It looks like the brick doesn't really wrap around, so I didn't see any issues with painting the entire area.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I like the fact that it comes out to the street and kind of gives a taste of what hides beneath. That's just for the neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Is there a public comment?
No hands are raised.
All right, then let's have a motion.
I'll make a motion of approval with the staff to review details, including final paint and sealant choices pursuant to Standard 9.
Second.
Then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, well,
Thank
you. This is a terrific project. All right, this time we have 2 minutes to wait. 1 minute.
Elevate the panelist.
Actually, while we're waiting, good morning, this is Allison with the staff. And if I could ask that the applicant, Eileen Quigley, be elevated to panelist. Thank you.
Good morning. Can everybody see and hear me?
We can hear you. We're at 9:44, so we're going to wait until we hit 9:45.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Eileen, while we're waiting, is there anybody else here representing this application that we could elevate to panelist?
Yes, thank you. So there's Jose Toro, who is Vice President of Asset Management for the applicant. And here on behalf of the Marriott Residence Inn, and also Bill Walther, who is a consulting architect and President of Asset Management for the ownership as well.
right, well, let's begin. We're 9:45, so the staff will read their recommendation. And then
Good
we'll
morning,
take-
everyone. This application proposes hotel signage and lighting at the former Market Street National Bank, now Marriott Residence, at 1319 to 25 Market Street. The fabric banner signage is proposed for 3 locations on the historic building. 2 of the signed banners would be located at the corner of Market and Juniper Street. A third sign would face Juniper Street at the corner of Commerce and Juniper Streets. The signage would be 20 feet tall by 3 feet wide and connected to hardware installed into mortar joints. Additional signage would be incorporated into the existing contemporary awning located above the hotel's main entrance on Juniper Street. It would be channel letters on a black metal curved band. The existing awning was approved by the Historical Commission. Uplighting is also proposed on the awning and on the building ledge under the banner signs. So the staff recommendation was denial pursuant to standards 9 and 10. And the image that we're showing right now, you can see at the corners where my cursor is, the fabric banners, and then the awning at the entrance here. And as we said, the awning is not historic, but it was approved by the Historical Commission, and you can see the channel letters that are proposed. Eileen Quigley is representing ownership of the property, and she can provide additional details about the project. Thank you.
Thanks, Allison.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Eileen Quigley from Ballard Spar, 1735 Market Street, Philadelphia 19103, on behalf of the applicant. As I said, we have Jose Toro and Bill Walther here with us as well. First, I just want to thank Allison and Historical Commission staff, and because we greatly appreciate their assistance over this somewhat long process, because we did go through a revision of the sign package from cabinets to fabric banners, which of course we've seen on other historic buildings and hotels in the city, including the Art Museum. So it was a great recommendation, fully embraced by ownership, and that's what we're here to present today. And as Allison said, we have banners here along Juniper and the one along Market Street. The size of the banners, we believe, is in really consistent with the scale of the windows, which they sort of bookend. Anything smaller, we think, would really diminish the signage and the building branding. So we think it just continues that rhythm there. That's why it's at that scale. Also, as Allison said, these fasteners are galvanized steel. They're going to be input in the grout. So at the joints, there's no disturbing of the historic fabric, either with installation or removal. The uplighting is going to be that. So these banners are going to be uplit, and there is it's a water table or a ledge, if you could see, yeah, right there. That's about 4.5 inches deep, and there's we're proposing to have like a small LED strip that goes under each banner and then at the columns. And that will be in an enclosure that's about 1.5 inches high. So you won't even see it from the street level. It'll be close to the facade. It'll be colored to match whatever it's up against, the building fabric or the windows, whether black or that I don't want to call it beigey color, but the color of the building. So as I said, that will also be installed at the ledge. That'll be in, any installation will be in the joints. So it'll be installed in the grout or mortar and not touching or disturbing any historic fabric. We do have existing signs there. That's up for discussion if the committee believes that they shouldn't be there. Once the banners go there, we're happy to discuss. But that's the rendering there at night. This is a soft lighting too. But that's how the banners will be lit, up lighting. They're not internally illuminated. There's no sign cabinet, nothing. It's just a banner installed with galvanized fasteners in the grout.
Can I ask where do you propose the uplighting? Just at the corners with the banners?
No, you see it there. There's really soft lighting in this rendering that's up right now. It'll up like
At every like
in
sort
the
of
column.
pilaster between the windows?
Right.
Do you have details on like how are you running electric there or how are you anchoring all this uplighting?
We do. We actually didn't get the information until yesterday, late yesterday. Was my understanding any revisions would be presented to the Historical Commission. I can pull something up if it's helpful.
I think we are locked into the staff screen.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But Mr. Toro may be able to better describe how they're going to be installed.
I think ultimately we need a drawing that shows,
Okay.
you know,
all right.
where conduit's going to be, how many lights there are, and how big they are relative to the cornice projection.
Yeah, and I think one other idea that I'd want to see detailed is, I would think having both the corner signs and the banners, if we move forward with the banners, how are you repairing the marks left behind by those existing plaques and have a detail and propose repair details for that as well and materials. Because I don't think you'd want both. I think that would look silly. Although I'm not sold on the banners, but
Yeah, I think what's tough for me, and I'm just one of 7 here today, is the terracotta facade here is such a character defining feature of this building. I mean, the most decorative part of this building is that second floor and those corners and the way that kind of fluted terracotta wraps the corner is such a beautiful and pure thing that in my opinion adding banners to it kind of kills that character defining part of the building. I understand the need for uplight, the desire to uplight, and I think depending on how that's handled and attached and supplied, I think that is something I would personally be open to. But and as well as some of the things at the awning. But for me, the addition of those banners against that terracotta is just slapping something onto the most pure part of this building. So I take issue with the banners, but others may disagree.
No, I agree. I was trying to think of if there's a different way to incorporate it because I understand the need for like wayfinding signage and whatnot, but it does have this mass appeal that you lose as soon as the banner just consumes that space.
So, I mean, the other approach, because I agree that compared to so many other signage applications we get that just kind of overwhelm it, this is not going overboard. But at the same point, Justin, your comments about the terracotta are really, I think, appropriate. But might this be a situation where a small projecting banner that's basically then perpendicular to the terracotta would be more appropriate?
If there was a way to attach it that wasn't harmful to the terracotta, I actually think that is better because, this sitting against the facade, I agree with you, John, and Eileen, I do think this is very thoughtfully presented and I appreciate that. But I think that sitting something that wide, taking up so much of that facade pilaster is really what I'm objecting to. I think if it sat perpendicular in some capacity, that might be better, but I worry about how it would be attached.
I mean, and we appreciate those comments. I think to your point, everybody's on our team is very conscious of installation and removal, and it's been on the forefront. It's going into that grout. Those joints are pretty wide. So presumably anything that you would be installing would be within those joints. So it wouldn't be touching or disturbing the historic fabric.
But the waving of the banner will disturb the historic fabric, and you can't tell me that this banner isn't going to move with the wind. My question is why not reuse one of the flag poles for a Marriott flag in addition to adding the naming or changing how it is signed at the canopy?
I mean, that hasn't been contemplated. They were looking for branding of the building. It's, but we appreciate the comment. I don't have an answer.
Okay.
I apologize. It wasn't something that was contemplated. It was, you know, the sign box, and then through discussions and through viewing other historic properties that are used throughout Philadelphia, seeing the banners, which appeared to be less intrusive than a sign cabinet.
I'm not in favor of a sign cabinet.
No, that's what, yeah. That's why we changed it completely.
That's a non-starter in my mind.
Yes. We got that from the first staff recommendation. So we, and just as I said, we had input from people, which we really appreciated, and it went back to ownership, and they embraced it. We're very appreciative of all the assistance and time from the historical commission staff. So yeah, that was a non-starter. Everybody got the message, so they changed it to banner. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, I guess I'm struggling with, is it a banner or is it a sign? And, when I think of a banner, I'm thinking of something that's projecting out and sort of away from the building. And this is really fit tight onto the building and attached in numerous locations, which I find tends to make it really more of a sign. And so I agree with my colleagues who are suggesting that if a way can be found to make a projecting banner system rather than kind of applying this to the terracotta, which this is just, it's the most fantastic terracotta.
If this was a brick building, if that was brick, this would be this would be easy. Yeah. But it's that character of that terracotta that is just spectacular and fragile. And so even a projecting sign, a perpendicular banner would catch the wind, and it would, its attachments could wedge out the terracotta joint. So it's a really sensitive base here.
And terracotta is very sensitive to water infiltration.
Yeah.
I mean, I noticed there are some pole mounted signs around the building. But that's, another option is to actually put signs out on poles on the sidewalk.
Probably controlled by the city.
What you mean on the sidewalk?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of institutions do.
Yeah. I think part of the branding, especially along the busy Market Street corridor, you want something a little higher for pedestrian and vehicular visibility up and down that corridor.
You could project something.
The street sign, but that wouldn't actually be noticeable or visible until you got to that, right, to City Hall, to this area.
I mean, like Justin, you're suggesting like a light projection.
Yeah, it's too bad you couldn't project something.
Yeah, that's
onto the
powerful technology now.
I get the desire to want it in this location because as you are wrapping around City Hall, you see that corner from the long view. It's just such a sensitive base, which I think that's really the root of our hesitation.
I mean, Eileen, have you guys looked at any sort of perpendicular banners if they weren't against the building? Because I don't know what the backup is here. Maybe it's more terracotta or speed tile, but maybe there is a way to attach it and be thoughtful.
But the issue is I don't think you can attach it just to a mortar joint and expect the anchorage of this banner.
No, I think it has to go through to the
Yeah.
backup.
perpendicular or parallel to the building is going to hold in place.
No, I think it has to go through to the backup. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what the backup is, but I would anchor through the mortar joint to the backup. Maybe it's through plates. I don't know. I would, that's if it was my building, that's what I would do. I don't know what the backup is, but I think you could do it through the mortar joints and probably create some sort of anchorage to, and they put holes in these signs for wind. So I think
Yeah.
I think the perpendicular option creates less of an issue to the terracotta.
Is that black band at the bottom where the Dunkin' Donuts sign is that terracotta too?
No.
I wish there was a way you could have something mounted there that rose up.
But you would still need to tie it back at the top.
Yeah.
Right, but a tie-in might be less intrusive than, the main part of the
You mean
connection.
at that ledge area?
Yeah, or just below it, that's something that kind of extends up, and hangs. I don't know. I'm just grasping here.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the perpendicular wasn't discussed, and perhaps because there may have been a consideration, for wind load being perpendicular attached to the wall. And I don't know if it's a lesser of two evils as far as wind load, if you're essentially flat or if you're perpendicular. And, obviously it's something we can look into.
I'm looking at that giant flagpole sticking out.
On both sides.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And put a spotlight on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'd have to inspect that flagpole if you're going to start putting a new sail
Yeah,
on.
and that's up in that band. So I don't.
But it's braced to the brick wall.
True.
Yeah.
It's something we can certainly look at.
It's there.
Yeah.
It's there. It's much easier to repair and fix that. Both of them, and really utilize that. I mean, that would be wonderful. You'd have much more. It would be a larger sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the canopy?
Yes, please.
Can I just ask 1 second, Allison? I think Jose Toro is having difficulty. I don't know if he's been elevated as a panelist.
Tony, has Jose been elevated? Can he?
Just because he may have, I think he wanted to speak to.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
I apologize.
I'm sorry, Ms. Gutterman.
I couldn't adjust my screen, and I'm actually also having an issue with my camera, so I do apologize. So, but I'm here. Any questions, please?
I just wanted to know if you wanted to add something with regard to the installation of the LED lighting enclosure. I mean, we had talked about it being 4.5 inches. I know we'd need something visual. I understand that, Chair. I apologize. It was essentially being a work in progress to nail it down.
Well, Eileen, can I ask that we bring in Bill also?
Sure. Is he elevated?
He's not. He needs to be elevated.
Yeah. Okay. Bill Walther needs to be elevated too, please.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
How is everyone? Listening to your comments, I'm trying to get some. I want you to see me as well. Not that that's important, but I'm not hiding behind my name. I'm just trying to find where to turn my camera on. But I love the idea. I love the idea, just to get to the point that was being made earlier, of doing something that is perpendicular to the building. We have done this in an office building that we own in New York City, and it's very successful, to the point that was being made that for the traffic that comes around City Hall, they would immediately see our hotel. And that's what we're trying to do, is to to distinguish our hotel from just being another building. The signage that was placed on there 25 years ago when we first did the Marriott would certainly be removed. We would have to clean it. We would have to do whatever is necessary to make it disappear. It just doesn't perform the function that 25 years later has produced in terms of opportunities to light one's building and to use LED lighting. But what I would like to propose, and it's something that we would need to look into, is doing something that would project from the window frames or the windows themselves that could have a substantial connection to the building without touching the terracotta. And we would need to bring out a structure from two structures that would project out either from the windows or what was also suggested, maybe down in the where the signage is over the stores, which is a granite surface, which is not terracotta. But in any event, whatever we would. Sorry.
I think,
Whatever.
yeah, I think that's reverb from some.
So whatever we would do, it would not touch the terracotta. We like the idea of the fabric signage. We think that it has opportunities that are not yet explored in terms of maybe even participating more in Center City with events that go on, that signage could be taken down and other signage replaced for that moment. Or for example, if we had signage now, we could do something that would participate in the 250-year birthday in Philadelphia, maybe putting something up for that celebration. But we see a lot of opportunities with the fabric sign.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
I think we'd have to see proposed details for any attachment that you'd want to propose anywhere else. It's hard to just speak in a vacuum without details.
But if there are steel lintels,
the windows are pretty too, so I think we need to be sensitive.
Yeah.
To,
yeah, I think that just Bill saying, hey, here,
yeah,
might be something else to think about. But
I appreciate that. Yeah, I think we appreciate that idea.
Agreed.
I think I mean, we were looking to move forward and, present any revisions and any additional details we had to the Historical Commission. But, I don't know how you want to move this forward. And we'll get to the marquee. I know Ms. Gutterman wanted to talk about the marquee. Yeah. I just, if there is something else that needs to go on and we need to come back, present it to the staff before it goes to the commission, it might just be worth it to really flesh it out before.
I don't think I'm not sure. I am one of 7. There is no way that I can agree in concept to anchorage to terracotta and or proposals of how light fixtures are going to work on this bottom ledge and how the electrical is going to feed it and how many holes you're proposing in the masonry wall without seeing all the details. And I think part of that detail is what Allison suggested is how what are you anchoring to when you go through that 3-inch, we'll say plus or minus terracotta unit, what's behind it and what's actually supporting anything you're proposing to hang off this building.
Right. Just as in terms of the lighting, there is already an electrical. There's already electricity because those signs on above the commercial spaces are all internally illuminated. So any LED signs that would be along that ledge would tie into that. So there wouldn't be any new poles made as far as connecting there. You'd have to install it, of course, along that water table, but there's already.
You'd have to come up through that sill somehow, or.
Depending
Yep.
upon how that is currently lit, which we don't know. How the conduit is currently run.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the facade, actually running right by the marquee.
I understand, but that, as Dan has said, that the conduit is running parallel to the street. At some point, you're going to need to come through the top of this metal fabricated cornice in order to provide uplights to the building.
Well, I guess, Dan, to your point, we need more details.
We need details. So I think in going back to the marquee, in order to try and keep us somewhat on schedule, I think we do have the details for the marquee. I think the staff's comments were the size of the letters and whether or not in reviewing that idea, is that acceptable to the applicant?
I'm sorry, so the marquee we're fine with, and understand that staff was fine with the marquee.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were fine with that. We were ready. We could approve that. That's how we felt.
You're okay with the size of the letters and colors and how they're
Yes.
lit? Okay. Okay. And does any existing lettering come down when this new signage goes up?
On the marquee now.
Okay. Okay.
And Allison, is the lower level, the sign band, is that an alteration to the building? That's the black, the granite, just that whole band.
Oh, are you talking about how it relates
I'm sorry,
to this?
I'm moving not just the marquee, but that whole lower level. I'm just trying to understand whether what's original fabric on the lower level and what's not.
I mean, the historic, well, I don't know if it's a historic photo. No, it's not historic. We don't have any historic photos, do we?
Dan, are you speaking about right here?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like, and I'm going to say this, I visited here a couple times since we've been reviewing this application. This part down here, I believe is visible granite. Up here, I don't know if it's wood or it's a composite. It's something that's painted. That is not, I don't believe where the signage is right now is any sort of exposed granite.
All right. That's just helpful in thinking things through in the future.
I can say that in the L&I archive zoning records, there are quite a few permits that were issued for that signage.
Yeah. Good. All right.
Dan, I'm assuming that if we wanted to, we could split this proposition and call out the marquee separately from the banners and the uplighting to get this moving for the client.
I would agree.
Thank you.
So do we have other comments from committee members? Is there public comment?
No hands are raised.
All right, well then, yes.
I just have
Dan?
one question. How's the electrical getting to this signage at the marquee? Are you pulling it from the existing electrical service to the marquee?
Yes, that's my understanding. There's an existing.
There's already lighting there.
Right, around the.
But is it enough amperage for this new signage?
It's an LED band, so it doesn't really take a lot of power at all.
Okay. Okay.
And we do
that's
have
fine.
enough. We do have enough power there.
Okay. That's great.
All right, then we are ready for a motion.
I will attempt a motion to split this application into the marquee, which I am willing to make a recommendation of approval. And a denial of the application, of the portion of the application regarding banners and lighting at the corners and the per the staff recommendations pursuant to standards 9 and 10.
And I will second that if you accept the addition of the staff to review details for the marquee awning.
I accept.
All right, then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
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 Can
All
I
right.
just, and I apologize, can I just confirm that that would be your recommendation moving forward to the Historical Commission, regardless of us going back and contemplating all of your comments today and seeing what else we could do to
You
that
can
would
present other
potentially.
You can
ideas.
always make changes if you'd like, as long as they're presented to the commission within the proper time frame, and the staff can give you advice on that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. We
Mhm.
appreciate everybody's time.
Well, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, the next item on the agenda is 4619 to 25 Longshore Avenue.
Good morning, everyone. Let me look really quickly at the list of participants. Looks like Sarah Potchley of Toner Architects has her hand raised if she can be elevated. There may be other Andy Gray as well. There may be others who wish to speak about this application. They can raise their hand. Please elevate them. And then I will read a brief overview. Sorry, 1 second. Gotta get my windows in order. This in-concept application proposes erecting an elevator tower at the rear of the building at 4619 Longshore Avenue, formerly the former Jaconi Club, with a small vestibule communicating with the parking lot. The elevator tower would expand existing window openings into doors at the first and second floors. At the third floor level, the rear dormer would be widened to meet the tower and provide access to the upper floor. The proposed massing and materials appear to be compatible with the historic resource, and the tower is located to minimally impact the building's primary elevations. The conceptual nature of the plans makes it difficult to fully evaluate the extent to which the project meets the standards. Of particular note, the plans call for the removal of a portion of the rear cornice and significant alteration of the rear dormer. An application for final approval should provide detail about these changes to character-defining elements. The staff recommendation is approval in concept.
All right, thank you, Ted. Is the applicant with us?
Yes, I am. My name is Andy Gray from Toner Architects.
Good morning.
Good morning. Just echoing what Ted said, it's a very exciting project bringing this building back to modern life with an elevator. This will really open up opportunities to bring this building back to full usage. And we did provide plans there with what we're proposing for the interior layout too. But to Ted's point, from the elevator addition standpoint, we were very cautious about where we were locating it, and we looked at several options. But in essence, the goal here was to minimize the impact to the exterior of the building. So looking at the rear elevation of that elevator addition, we located it so that the doors on the second and third floor were aligned with former openings of the building. Mind you, these openings have all been infilled. So another aspect of this project is to bring the windows back to original character for this as well. But we're primarily presenting the elevator addition. We're here to answer any questions you have at all. But we looked at interior as well, and frankly, it just doesn't work with the floor with the overhead clearance heights within the building. So This is why we landed on this. But again, we located on the rear side and to the right as well, or south side, plan right, to minimize the viewing ability from the corner of Longshore and Marsden. Thank you very much. We're here for any questions.
So recognizing that this is in concept, so you haven't figured out all of these details yet.
Right.
When we look at this elevation, though, the first floor sloping roof kind of bisects a window, and the end wall isn't quite at the window jamb. The shaft kind of bisects a dormer. So I feel that while I understand the need for it, I feel like its location or massing isn't quite resolved in terms of its relationship to the building. And I would say that there would need to be an increased sensitivity to those kinds of issues, in addition to the cornice detail and things like that, to really make it feel like it belongs. And I think it needs to be more than just sort of, this is the minimum footprint piece we can put on here to make it feel like it fits and not just an appendage.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I was struggling with like, where do you move it? How do you slide it? You know, at one point I wanted it to be kind of centered on that dormer on the full facade, but then you're getting close to those second floor windows. I think, you know, as John, to your point, I agree that it's hitting that one window on the first floor in a funny way. I wish there's a way to do that better. I think it's pretty clear that this isn't as there's no extra space here. But I did wonder, like, your elevation, your front elevation, your side elevation make this thing look square, but your plan make it look rectangular.
So that's showing the floor plan on the bottom level where there is the vestibule, but the rest of the tower itself is just the elevator portion only.
Oh,
And
I
Andy,
see.
have you looked into, like, is there actually a commercial elevator model that this is based on? Because that 90-degree door relationship is an unusual one, and not many manufacturers make it.
Yes, we're currently in discussions with about 5 or 6 different elevator manufacturers for that exact point right now. So we're getting quotes. Yeah, you're correct. Some of the big manufacturers don't really, or they do the corner, but it's very uncommon and more expensive. So it tends to fall on the custom elevator manufacturers. So we're evaluating that and determining what is possible. But yes, we do have the corner configuration shown here. And if that's an unreasonable approach, frankly, if it's a standard front rear door opening, that may solve the concerns of the vestibule popping over the existing openings on the elevation. If we just went straight out towards the back of the parking lot, would create some pinch points and some possible rework there in the lot, but that is the alternative approach. So I guess to answer your question, we don't have that final resolution yet, but there is some variability there.
I think it's possible. I think it's possible to do it. It's just, as John says, not as many manufacturers.
Right.
Just for reference, what's going to happen to the cornice? It's all been boxed in. Is the plan in the end to uncover and restore it?
You know, we have not had that discussion yet, so I actually don't have that answer.
May I interrupt here? This is
I don't
Sarah.
know. I was going to say, I don't know if Sarah has an opinion on that.
Yes, the owner currently is not planning to do any further renovations to the exterior of the building beyond replacing the windows and the elevator. So as it's been boxed in, that's not within their current budget to restore the cornice or any of the other exterior materials.
What about the roof?
They will be most likely having to replace the roof since the building is leaking substantially.
Yeah, we did show that on our elevations as the roof replacement.
So even though the cornice is going to remain covered, I still think there's some sensitivity to how this goes to its location to that cornice, because they're, assuming this is a successful project, there could be a time in the future where the owner or a future owner wants to restore that cornice. And I would hate to have that elevator be something that is kind of added to the challenge. If it's even if it's just like thinking through like if there were brackets, how it relates to the brackets and things like that.
Well, and if you remove any, do you salvage them and put them in the basement or something? I think it would be, I mean, that overhang of that awning or of that, cornice is just an incredible part of this building. And I think how it attaches to that is really important. So I think it's disappointing that it's not being restored, but to John's point, I agree. This new addition does have to relate to that somehow. The other thing, and this is a minor thing, but that roof that you have on the low portion, I think that would be better as a metal roof than an asphalt roof. Some sort of standing seam roof there. As long as you're going to build it, I don't think asphalt would be ideal there.
Since this is a review and comment, I mean, stepping back from a design perspective, it might be more successful if this elevator were actually pulled off of the building as a standalone tower that was separate and let the cornice run free. It would allow you to do like a glass link perhaps between the original building and the elevator tower, and maybe drop the height a little bit of the link so you could align better with the dormer and keep the height down of that link building, because the elevator tower is so tall, it's sort of towering over the roof, and the roof is the architectural feature that really defines this building. So I think it would be, from a design standpoint, a little more successful if it was pulled off a bit. Maybe that a glass link of some sort could become the entrance point, so it could be more pure as an element, design element insertion.
Amy, I guess to respond to that, we definitely did think about that. It was just really a budget concern at that point. I mean, that's a great idea, but obviously more costly than an addition with an expansion joint versus having floors with plates and walls extending out. So that was kind of our thought process there.
So we've been having a lot of conversation about this elevator and it's kind of how to make it hit the building a little more compatibly. We haven't discussed sort of the initial comment that the elevator doesn't work within the building. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the options you explored and why they don't work?
Sure. So we looked at, I mean, really the main problem is the overhead clearance of elevators. And if you look at that top floor, it's a little bit deceptive because you have sloped roofs vaulting throughout the whole upper floor. And it's actually, the floor plate is a little bit below the roof line itself. So it's a little bit deceptive there. So it's almost sunken down in a way. So your clearance above leaves only a gap in the middle that would have a 10'8" hoistway clearance above on that top level. And that would only equate to about, I don't know, it was about 6 to 7 feet total width on the upper floor. So there's really no usable space to get an elevator to the top floor. That was the primary concern. So
that doesn't project through the roof, you mean?
right, exactly. Yeah, it would pop through the roof.
Because I mean, I guess another option could be locating it in such a way that it takes advantage of the dormer and uses the dormer as that additional height that is needed.
And potentially expand the dormer a little if you had to.
Right.
Are these low income apartments or are these market rate units? I mean, putting 16 units in the building that's a lot of apartments, which is wonderful.
Justin, they are expected to be VA apartments.
Okay.
I have a question. Is there a basement or is the street level the lowest level?
That is the lowest level, partially subgrade.
And the elevator, it looks like will access the street level. That's correct?
Correct. All levels. There would be 5 stops in total, 1 at the parking lot and then the 4 levels.
So by keeping the elevator tower adjacent to the building, you're going to trigger underpinning, I'm assuming, with the elevator pit right there.
Yes.
That's expensive. I'm just like you mentioned that pulling the elevator away and adding a little bit of floor and wall is expensive. I'm just thinking it might be offset by the cost of you pull it away. You could potentially pull it away far enough to eliminate underpinning. If I'm not sure if that's been explored, and might be worth exploring if it hasn't.
You can explore that. I'm not sure.
And does the elevator have to serve the 3rd floor? I mean, I realize that it would be desirable to serve all the floors, but where are your accessible units?
We don't have those identified yet, but we would really only need the 1 accessible unit on this. So it could be anywhere. But to your point, technically, it doesn't need to be the 4th floor. It was just a desire to have the ability for all of those to be connected.
I mean, understandably.
I mean, if it's for the VA, you almost probably should consider that.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't the VA have requirements for the number of ADA units? Because I feel like if you have 1 ADA unit, you're going to lose a whole entire apartment with the way these are jammed in there. No?
So we have been working with the building owner and the requirements that they've been working with the VA. So that has not been a requirement that's been relayed to us for this specific property. And we are using some of the historic exceptions for specific like ADA, or I should say ANSI type A units.
It is worth noting the units get progressively larger as they go up as well. So some of the units on the bottom floor are on the lowest level are really tight, but on the top unit, there's lots of extra space. So that can be accommodated.
Other comments from committee members? All right, then. Is there public comment?
No hands are raised.
All right, then let's have a motion for this conceptual application.
I'm going to make a motion of denial in concept. I feel that it hasn't quite been shown to us that the elevator can't work within the footprint of the building. And that, locating in such a way that perhaps it's a dormer that pokes up through the roof could be an approach.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
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 All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is Drummoir Lane. Number 27, Drummoir Lane.
Good morning, Josh Schroeder with the staff. Apologize if I missed you. My Zoom restarted at the worst moment, but I'm here now. Before I read an introduction, if we could elevate Scott Woodruff of Design Blends Architecture and Ori Feibush, the property owner. I will read an introduction.
Josh? Oh, there it
Yes.
is. Never mind. Sorry.
Good
The
morning.
screen hadn't popped up yet. Thanks.
There we go.
Okay. This application proposes to construct a dormer addition at the third floor of the mansion at 27 Drummoir Lane, known as Brinkwood, to accommodate the conversion of attic space into living space on the interior. The proposal includes the demolition of a portion of the roof and a small existing dormer. The new dormer would include 2 aluminum-clad window systems whose alignment and configuration would match those on the first and second stories below, with cedar shake siding to match the existing facade. The roof's existing asphalt shingles would be replaced with slate tiles. In January 2023, the Architectural Committee reviewed a nearly identical proposal for 27 Drummoir Lane. The Architectural Committee at that time recommended denial, noting that the proposed dormer was out of proportion with the features of that facade and that the replicated windows would diminish the visual impact of the historic windows. A substantially revised design that proposed a shed dormer was approved by the Historical Commission in February 2023. At the following Architectural Committee meeting, a different proposed dormer design was reviewed and denial was recommended there as well. In April 2023, the Historical Commission again approved a revised application that proposed a shed dormer. And the staff recommendation is denial as proposed, but approval provided the dormer is reduced in size and set back from the roof edge to maintain the cornice line, and that the windows would be differentiated from the historic windows below, pursuant to Standard 9.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. Scott Woodruff here of Design Blends Architecture. Appreciate that intro. As you said previously, we were here at the Architectural Review Committee, did go through some substantial revisions. The owner, who's also on this call and can talk to this, would like to go forward and request that we revisit this dormer addition. The overall reason and kind of design for this is to extend the existing stair that goes from the first level to the second level with an identical stair that goes from the second level to the third level. Currently, there is a very small, narrow winder stair that goes to this third level, which is not really adequate to get up there and is a little bit unsafe. So the idea here is to replicate the stair and or windows that go up to provide correct headroom to get up to that level, and continue that in character. There's some photos, I think, on the next page, Josh. Yeah, of what the interior of what that currently looks like at the first level going to the second, to essentially replicate that going up to the third, to access that space.
So it's kind of confusing, and I guess I can see a little bit of it in the photos. The stair doesn't meet the windows, right? There's like is there a bench there or a little ledge?
Yeah, so I think that landing, I think actually extends out to the bottom of the windows on that first floor. You go up a couple stairs. I think that landing actually extends, and I think the drawing's not showing that accurately.
The stairs not touching the window. It's held off a couple of feet. Is that what I'm seeing?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So you could still, in theory, extend the stair to the third floor, but pull that line back at the third floor level, which would make it more of a dormer and less of a two-story wall of windows. Right?
We could.
So obviously you're not doing that.
Correct.
Are you willing to make this look like more of a dormer per the staff's recommendation?
No, sir. We originally proposed this. We settled on a dormer. Aesthetically, I'm of the mindset that it's just going to be a poor experience for the home, and ultimately feel unbalanced here. And 2 years later, I'm gravitating back towards what was the original plan, which clearly not the original design, but in my mind here, much more consistent with the aesthetic of the property. And the hope is to delineate that third floor in some way. The entire bay structure needs to be removed and replaced from ground to roof. The entire roof is going to be replaced, every window, the entire facade. Everything is coming off, and this is a meaningful opportunity to rebuild this in a way that I hope is respectful and responsive to the existing historic fabric, but also responsive to the manner in which my family hopes to use this home. We do live there now, but there's nothing being used on the third floor here at this point.
Yeah, I can appreciate the desire to make it more feel less cramped or congested. Just the nature of kind of extending that second floor bay element, actually it's first floor bay element too, up to a third story just goes very counter to the character of the building. And I hear what you said about, you looked at the dormer idea and it felt unbalanced. But what if instead of a single dormer by the landing where it's going to need it from a head height perspective, it's two dormers, and each one's centered at the bay below, but it's something that respects the cornice line, respects the alignment with the bay below, so it I think might fit more in the character of the building that way.
We tried. Hopefully, no one has perfect memory of it, but we went through about 30 iterations live with the committee 2 or 3 years ago here.
I don't remember. Sorry.
No, you're fine. It's wasn't great memories, but everything from eyebrow dormers to individual shed dormers to every iteration here. It just looks unbalanced. This is the rear of the home, not the front of the home. It was not given sort of the architectural prominence that it perhaps should have 140 some odd years ago here. And I think it's largely driven by the fact that this was the rear. I do also just want to share that no part of this facade is viewable from the public realm. You must go to the home itself to be able to actually see this view shed here. You can't even get a sliver of this from the public realm here. It's 100% limited to my family's experience here, and obviously guests of our home. But I do appreciate
none of the house is visible from the public right of way, right? Even the front, because it's a private drive, right?
That's correct. Forgive me. You're 100% correct. I was more referencing that even from the private drive, no aspect of this is visible. You're correct. The public drive ends about 1,600 feet away. So yes, but I wasn't being cute with the language. I was treating Drew Moore Lane, which does on occasion get folks cutting through to Valley Green, even from the private lane, 0% of this facade is viewable. Even if you're effectively trespassing on the private lane, you still can't see this facade here. It is 100% hidden by the turret and just the orientation of the home relative to the lot here. But I certainly am sensitive and appreciate the committee's feedback. It is meaningfully consistent with the feedback from a few years ago. The investment that's needed for this home to bring it back to life is just one that really needs to ultimately make aesthetic sense and functional sense for my family here. The facade has not been touched in 50 years. We're replacing every window with LePage windows out of Canada. There was a question a few years ago. I had proposed a slate roof, and the feedback from the committee was that this was likely a shingle roof, a cedar shingle roof. We were able to find photos of the home confirming it was actually slate initially. And certainly the structure can support slate here. And so we're replacing the entire asphalt roof with slate. All of the shingles need to be removed and reinstalled with cedar shingles. A mix of woodpeckers and termites have destroyed this over the years. But there's an enormous investment that's going to be made here. And regrettably, that staircase is just wildly unsafe going from 2 to 3 right now. And so enormous changes are proposed inside and outside of the home to bring it to, the modern era here. And this is one small ask that we could assemble in such a way here that a future owner could remove should they want to bring it back to its original historic fabric here.
Is there? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Allie. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, is there a way that maybe the windows from the 3rd floor up don't also project out and maybe are pulled back in line with that wall that you have, so it feels different? I feel like I'm reacting to just this new, I don't know, I'm not an architect, so my words are not going to be as flowy, but like this, it feels like a very strong massing that I think I'm reacting to that I don't love. And maybe if there was like a slight distinction between the two, you would still have the separation of the stair and the wall, and maybe they're windows still, but they're just not this monolithic thing.
Yeah, and my hope, which I know is counter to the standards that you're all reviewing this under, is to ultimately have this such that it doesn't look like an addition, that it looks like it was already the intent. To be clear, these bays are not at the same plane as the balance of that facade there. If you take a different angle here, that turret projects out, as does the right-hand side of the home here. It really does not, until you really get to the face of the home here, you just can't see it. It's not nearly as imposing as it might feel in that lens there. Might be a better angle there. The balance of the home juts out rather considerably. These are just, this is the view shed from, or going too fast for me to narrate, but that might be a better angle of it. But you can see the balance of the home projecting out such that the bays really don't drive it. And that turret also projects out. So it's, I certainly appreciate your feedback, and I do want to get this right. We've looked at different window styles even. It just, everything feels forced when we try to showcase that this is different than what was there before. Whereas I sort of want this to bring in a lot of light, but ultimately create a rhythm that this was always there, which again, I know is in the complete contrast to your standard and your.
Yeah, I think that's the difficulty that I'm personally having, and I know that we've had this discussion, I think, on 2 previous occasions, and I guess we, at least from my perspective, we have to agree to disagree. I do agree with my colleagues that the cornice line separating the cornice and having the upper windows appear more dormer-like and pulled back is more consistent with the architecture of the house as it exists. So
I know I'm going to get pushback on this comment, but I'm renovating doing a very, a very long, tedious restoration on the corner of 24th and Delancey that backs up to Fittler Square. And the top floor of that home is the only one on the block that has a quote unquote ballroom that was added in the 1920s that has a window very similar to what Mr. Feibusch is proposing. And it's not dissimilar in terms of, context and massing. And I just wonder if, a modern interpretation of what's here wouldn't work best for this, on the home. If you look at the existing conditions photo, it's not like a protruding bay. The way the drawings read, it's like as if it's a bay on a new building, in South Philly or something, but it's not that thing. So I wouldn't have a problem with the massing, especially on the back of the house. The only thing I would question is the materiality between the two banks of windows on the third floor. But
I have great hesitation because this is an individually designated property by the Hewitt brothers, who are arguably one of the greatest 19th century architects and residential architects in Philadelphia, for the Houston family, who was, built this entire neighborhood. This was Sam Houston's house, who was head of the Houston estate. And these homes, I'm actually writing a book about all of this right now, so that's unfortunate. This argument, but
it was also a brothel for about 15 years, but
Drum War, this house, Stonehurst, Chrisheim were all designed with two main facades, front facade and rear facade. The rear facade facing the park was the family facade, and they were all done in such a way that the rear was just as prominent as the front. And I think, the ability for this house to maintain its integrity, I mean, we have to uphold the Secretary of the Interior standards here. I think you could still create a staircase doing what you want it to do that is not unsafe, that is quite a wonderful and generous staircase, but pulling that dormer back, I don't think takes anything away. You can still have plenty of light, and it's just not the aesthetic facade treatment that you're hoping for. So, as Dan said, we can agree to disagree, but I just wanted to state that for the record.
Just if I can add on to your comment about the generous stair, I think part of what's driving this is the desire to kind of match the width of that stair going from the second to the third floor also. And I think history is littered with examples of a grand stair from the first floor to the second floor that takes on a diminished footprint going to the upper floor. And actually, if you think about the scale of that third floor and the way it's tucked under the eaves of the roof, there's actually, I think, a disconnect with having a 5-foot wide stair continue up to that floor as well.
That's an extra 2 feet of free space in front of it. I think you could still have a very grand stair going all the way to the third floor, while meeting, everyone's comments here.
No, I appreciate that. One other piece here, which again is purely an aesthetic piece. Many of you know me as a developer in Philadelphia. What probably none of you know me as is the largest collector of early American lighting in the world. And I have the truly, truly magnificent Bradley and Hubbard and Tucker lighting, all out of Meridian, Connecticut here, that requires enormous flow, enormous breadth and height to be able to display. This home admittedly was originally gas and not whale oil, but very much in keeping with the era. When I suggest that we're doing a full renovation inside and out, it is to return back to original historic lighting, some of which, again, purely aesthetic here on the facade, but really requires that space and that breadth there to display a collection of lighting that doesn't exist anywhere else other than in my personal collection here. It is something profoundly unique. And between that and the safety and all these things here, and the fact that truly no one other than my family can see it. I mean, I'd certainly stipulate that if we move out, we can we can restore it back to what it was here. But for the next, hopefully, many, many, many decades, where I raised my three children in this home here, it's admittedly a de minimis change that could ultimately be removed here by any other party here. But I would suggest that if the bay was existing as I'm proposing it, everyone would argue to keep it exactly as I'm proposing it, because it would be much more befitting. The bay does not project anywhere near to, and you see this elevation here, it's dwarfed by the balance of the massing of the roof. It's hidden by sort of the structure that envelops it. And it just has always felt like a very bizarre, facade here, and one that was admittedly completely neglected in favor of the opposite side of this property. And so it's really just I think a missed opportunity to treat this property as it should have been treated from the start. No disrespect to obviously famous architects here, but ultimately creating an experience both for my family and for guests here that's much more befitting of this property. I will just end on the fact that we did try 100, I'm being dramatic, 20, 30 iterations of different dormers here. All of them feel forced. All of them feel awkward. All of them feel just disconnected from the simple elegance of the home. Even the one dormer that's there just feels totally out of place and drives me nuts every single day when I come home and look at it. And being able to just create a more cohesive rear of this property here would go an enormous way. And I hate the idea of not utilizing the benefit of the space between the stairs and the window on the upper floors here to really continue that rhythm and that experience here. And so I won't belabor the point. I can certainly read the room, but certainly very much appreciate the opportunity to present our position here and remain emphatic that this is what we hope to pursue for this property in exchange for the investment that's ultimately going to be needed to bring this home to a condition that it'll last the next 130, 140 years.
All right. Well, I think we all certainly appreciate the investment that you're making in bringing this home back. And
okay, I'm going to make one, additional, just share an additional thought. I mean, I don't think this is appropriate. I'll just start there. But knowing that ultimately there are others beyond us who have a say in this and can either agree or disagree with what we're saying. If there is an extension of this nature that is going to happen, I question if it needs to come as high as it does. One of the things about this, other than just this, the mass of it, is for lack of a term, the imbalance of height, in that the first floor and the second floor and the third floor are all identical, and that a traditional approach would be when you get to the third floor, windows get smaller or shorter. And while we tried in the past to stick with dormers to make it smaller, that might there be a better version of this that, for instance, takes away the top row of panes to help bring it down a little bit, make it a little less massive. I'm not suggesting that as a design, but I just say that knowing that the Historical Commission has the ability to say, we're going to decline this, they can overrule us, but I think that there's better versions of this that might be out there.
Has there been a version where the third floor is one wider dormer that is set back, maintaining the existing cornice line?
Yes, that's ultimately a version of what's approved here, effectively centered equidistant between the chimney on the left there and the peaked roof to the right. But Mr. Kluver, I would support what you're suggesting there, and presumably it would just pitch more dramatically to eliminate that top pane of window there. But that's certainly an aesthetic that I think would be attractive.
Yeah. And I'll say, I might, when I see it, I might not like it, but
Me
I feel
too.
that I don't want this to be the end of the discussion if it's the
Understood.
end of the discussion.
Understood. I'd certainly be happy between this and the full commission to render that, and I think that's something that ultimately could be supported here.
I question whether you'd have enough ceiling height on the stair because you've got 7'9" now, according to the drawing. I mean, you need 6'8" minimum, and 6'8" is in a house of this grandeur is going to feel extremely low. So if you drop that, if you just turn that dormer down, John, as you're saying, you're losing at least a foot there. I just worry that there's
if it's starting at the same point, I don't see. Well, he has an architect. The architect can draw it up, and it may. And like I said, it may not look like the right answer either. It just. I will be disappointed if this gets built the way we see it today.
It's an option I don't think we've fully explored, John, to your point, which I think we can explore that.
All right, do we have other comments from committee members? Is there public comment?
No hands are raised.
All right, then let's have a motion.
I'll make a motion of denial as presented.
Then
second.
All right, then unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
I think we should take a roll call vote.
Well, let's do what I'm suggesting, and then we can do a roll call.
Okay.
Aye.
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 All right, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, next item on the agenda is 1523 to 29 Wallace Street.
Good morning, committee members. This is Kim Chantry with the staff. Tony, if we could please elevate Derek Spencer as the applicant for this project, and I'll read a very brief overview. This application proposes to construct a 4-story multi-unit residential structure on the surface parking lots at 1523 to 29 Wallace Street. It appears that the buildings that once stood on the lot were demolished around 1966. The site consisted of several vacant lots at the time of the Spring Garden Historic District designation, with a non-historic site wall. Therefore, the Historical Commission's jurisdiction over the undeveloped site is review and comment only. This means that the Historical Commission and its Advisory Architectural Committee may offer non-binding comments on the application at public meetings, but may not approve or deny it. And the staff comment is that the application satisfies Standard 9.
Thank you, Kim.
Good morning, members of the committee. Thanks for having me this morning. As Kim mentioned, I'm Derek Spencer, owner of Gnome Architects here in the city. I've been before you many times before, but happy to present 1523 Wallace Street. This is a 27-unit, 4-story building in the Spring Garden neighborhood. We really wanted to match the aesthetic of the neighborhood with a red brick building. Throughout the presentation, you can see multiple examples of how we've kind of explored the different types of buildings that are around us. Here's some existing pictures of the site. As you can see, it's a vacant lot. Here are some pictures of, more residential scaled row homes around us, most notably with red brick, large cornices at the top of the building, as well as a lot of shutters and, different architectural ways of treating and emphasizing the entries to the homes. If you can go to the next slide, we've got some more institutional or commercial buildings. We have the school across the street from us is the Franklin Learning Center. Again, a very masonry heavy building, a lot of horizontal striations in the brick and brick patterning. The PCA building on North Broad, not too far away from us, a very symmetrical building, centered entryway with some cast stone detailing. Also kind of horizontal striations that break up the floors of the building into smaller, more manageable chunks. And then 1460 Wallace Street, which is, also a nearby building. This is our zoning plan. We're a fully detached building. We have 5-foot side yards on both sides of us and a small light well on the west side that you can see there with a couple trees in it. On the east side of us, we do have the rear yards and other parking from some neighboring buildings. So the west side of our building is much more visible than the east side, which we're only 5 feet away from a 3-story masonry row home. This is our zoning section. We're 45 feet in height. We do have a few pilot houses at the top to access a rooftop deck, but they are pulled significantly away from both the front and the rear of the building. Here are our floor plans. On the right, you can see the first floor plan with a lobby, bike room, and mail room centered in the front of the building. We have our trash room more towards the back third of the building, where we have double doors out to the side yard where trash will be taken.
We don't need a tour.
All good. All good. Here's the elevation on the streetscape so you can get a sense of the massing. The front facade of the building, red brick, red cast stone with an archway around the front entry, double doors. We have some black accent brick on either side of the doors flanking it. And we have a brick cornice both at the second and the fourth floor to kind of split the building up into a 1-2-1 pattern. This is the west side of the building. Like I said, it's a little bit more visible from the street. So we have red brick extending back to the court. Vertical metal panel siding around the rest of the sides back. And then on the east side, you can see the about 10 to 12 foot extension of the brick back on that side. These are just the 2 court elevations showing that vertical metal panel. And here's our building section showing the pilot houses both 20 feet from the rear and 24 feet from the front. This is some diagramming of the existing buildings on the left around the site, both with the shutters and some architectural embellishment around the entryway. We tried to bring that in with some horizontal brick banding on either side of the windows to differentiate the windows, as well as some, the cast stone archway around the front door. Here a rendering of the building, again showing the red brick. You can see how it extends down to the court on the west side. We have a brick corbelled cornice at the very top of the building, as well as the intermediate cornices at the 4th and the 2nd floor. It's just a straight on view and then another view facing west. And that's all we have. Thank you very much.
All right.
So, I think that the use of the brick, the tripartite division, the use of punched openings, all do a nice job of helping this fit within the neighborhood in the context of the district. I would quibble with some of the historic language diagrams you've done there. I don't agree. I'm not on the same page with some of that, but I think details notwithstanding, on the whole, it's working within the character of that district. The one item that I guess stands out a little more than others is the rounded corners of the front entry. It feels out of place more so than anything else.
I too appreciate the sensitivity, the quality of materials, in particular from this view that you're wrapping that brick as far as you are. I think that is something that, yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. We always appreciate that. I think that the one thing I was going to say is that the renderings seem a little different from the architectural elevations in that your cornices read a little bolder here, and all of your projections. I do think they should read bold. I think they look a little shallow and thin on the architecturals. And when you look at, the building adjacent or around it, there's nice overhangs and that sort of thing. So, feel free to increase those a little bit if you so choose. But I think overall there's a really nice rhythm here and a sensitivity, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The one, speaking of the brick wrapping, there was the one facade, the courtyard elevation. That one, that brick returns just a little, it could go a little further, but I'm not going to push it. But again, if you feel the need to increase that, it would be welcome.
I wanted to give you a little bit more than the 4-inch side of the brick. No problem.
Thank you.
That's pretty deep inside the site, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I know. Just
I know. I agree with my colleagues. I think thank you for the night's materials and attention to details. And I guess my only small comment would be the opening looks a little short or small relative to, the size of the other windows. And I'm not sure what to do about that.
Yeah, we were actually playing around with pulling up that red cast stone around the door to maybe the sills of the windows above. It was getting a little close. But if you look at a lot of the historic imagery from the buildings around us, a lot of them do have that entryway taller than the windows that it flanks. So I do want to work on that a little bit before we get to the commission.
Good. Well, that would be my suggestion.
Yeah. Are you maxed out on height?
Yeah, we are. For the overall building, we are. Yeah.
Yeah, because I agree with Dan. That first floor, my first reaction when I saw this was that the 4th floor looks tall relative to the ground floor. And, if you could slide everything up just a hair while keeping that eave line, I think it would help. The 2nd floor aligns with the neighbor and all of that, but you're creating a much bigger scale building than the adjacent residential, so it does look a little squat at the bottom.
Well, they have a brick parapet to fence in the green roof, so that's what's giving that height up there.
I think we could probably look at pulling the parapet around the roof down maybe like a foot or so.
Yeah, I would strongly suggest that.
Yeah, I didn't want the brick meat between the header above the window and the cornice to get too thin. We were kind of battling that because you can even see in the buildings next to us the distance between the lintel and the cornice. Just kind of wanted to match those proportions, but I think we could bring it down just a couple brick courses and still be okay.
Yeah, even 6 inches would help.
Yes.
Yeah. I like the corners. That's just a personal opinion.
Thanks, we did too.
Derek, are you using the parapet as a guard for the rooftop use?
No, our roof deck is set back significantly. There will be rooftop equipment up there in terms of condensers and things like that. So I didn't want to pull the parapet too low. So we're kind of managing, what we're hiding up there. But like you said, I think we could drop it 6 to 8 inches and still be okay in terms of shielding anything.
Okay.
Is this going to be all wood frame construction since it's only 4 stories?
Yeah, it'll be wood framed.
Yeah, so I think that understanding the locations of that rooftop equipment will be important too. You're doing a good job of the pilot houses being set back from the street. But does that mean you're going to end up with that rooftop equipment closer to the street?
It'll be closer, but again, I think if we maintain a 30-inch parapet, we should be fine. We're also kind of working with the water department on the green roof, and there's a few moving parts there. So we're going to have to be, pretty sensitive about where that equipment is.
I have one little comment. I think on your plan, I'm not sure the plan shows the recess at the entrance.
It probably does not at this point in time. That was a development as we were kind of going through the exterior design.
Good development.
We do have plenty of room in the lobby for that, so we'll make sure that's updated before the commission.
Good. All right, other comments from committee members?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you that this really exemplifies an urban infill that's appropriate for the Philadelphia context in this neighborhood. You know, the fact that it doesn't have parking, that it's limited to 4 stories, that its materials are fitting of this context is great. So thank you to the whole team for proposing this.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate that.
And your client for making the investment. Really.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, other comments? Is there public comment?
Yes, one hand is raised currently. A. Biggin.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. I'm an adjoining neighbor, and I want to just make a few comments. I'm aware of the limitations of the Historical Commission here in approving this. I don't mind the look of the building overall. That's fine. I'm very concerned, however, about the density. The developers making use of bonuses for the green roof and for affordable housing units, which maybe exist, or maybe they just buy into them, that allow them to go above 38 feet and have 27 units instead of 19. It's going to end up with 50 bedrooms, 50 plus bedrooms in this building. So there could easily be 75 or more people living in there. I'm concerned about the lack of parking, concerned about the lack of bike parking, concerned about trash management, just the overall density of it in what is largely a single family and up to 6-unit residential neighborhood right now, like kind of inappropriate. So I just wanted to make these comments at this point.
All right, well,
I think the site context, the commercial references are somewhat misleading. There's nothing really in the neighborhood except if you go out to Broad Street outside of the Franklin Learning Center, which the architect mentioned. I wish this could be a smaller building and more in keeping with the historical nature of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for comment. All right, then this is simply review and comment, so no motion or vote is needed.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, we thank you. All right, now the final item on today's agenda is 3500 South Broad Street.
Good morning, everyone. This is Alex Till with the staff. I will be reading a brief overview for this project. First, could we elevate a few people to panelist for this? The applicant, architect Brittany Scherer, is in the meeting, and I believe I also see the American Swedish Historical Museum logged in as well. Just give me 1 sec, sorry. So this application proposes to construct an auxiliary building on the ground of the American Swedish Historical Museum in FDR Park. It additionally proposes a number of exterior landscape improvements, including constructing an ADA accessible ramp, adding a paved parking area, constructing pedestrian paths and a plaza, and adding exterior lighting to the building. The building was constructed in 1926 by Swedish-American architect John Neiden as part of the sesquicentennial celebration held at FDR Park, and has housed the American Swedish Historical Museum since 1928. The auxiliary building will be positioned on the western side of the museum building, between it and Pattison Avenue, and its design imitates the colors and materials of the museum building. The parking area will be situated on the eastern side of the building near Pattison Avenue and will be connected to the museum building by a series of paved pedestrian paths and a paved plaza. The ADA ramp will be constructed on the park-facing south side of the building and feature a mixed metal with clear acrylic panel design. Finally, lighting will be installed both at ground level, via poles, and via a wall sconce element on the museum building. The entire building and grounds are visible from both Pattison Avenue and FDR Park. The staff comment on this particular project is approval pursuant to Standard 9. And from there, I will let the architect take it.
All right, thank you, Alex.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brittany Shearer with Studio Sistema. We're the design lead. I was actually wondering, Alex and team, if we could elevate Tracy from the Swedish Museum. I think she might be elevated. She's going to be giving an intro for our team.
Okay, it looks like I can speak now. Thank you so much for considering our application. It is the museum's 100th anniversary this year, and as such, the board has chosen to prioritize improvement projects that provide equitable and safe access to our building. We do serve a lot of families with small children and senior citizens, and therefore, things like the 25 steps leading up to our front door create a real barrier for a lot of people. Therefore, we're installing this parking lot or proposing a parking lot on a small parking lot on Pattison Avenue and adding accessible entrances on both sides of the building. On the other side, which is currently our front side, the accessible entrance portion is a ramp that will connect the front door of the museum to the museum's terrace, which is heavily used for outdoor programming for the museum. We're also requesting the building of an ancillary outdoor building to support that programming with all of the supplies that we use on the terrace, which currently have to be stored in the basement and brought out to use. Thank you.
Thank you.
So can you talk about the location of the auxiliary building and why that was chosen there? It feels particularly close to the museum. You know, are there other locations that might give it a little bit more breathing room?
Purpose.
I can start with the answer, and Brittany, if you want to chime in. The main purpose for it is to store large and heavy things like tables and chairs that are used on the terrace. And so it's actually really important that it be close. The other thing that's hard to tell from the particular plans that you're looking at is the topography of the site. We are at the top of a built hill, and therefore there's a lot of incline if you get further from the building or closer to the park part of the building. We also did a lot of analysis of view sheds and how people approaching the building will perceive this structure. And when you're approaching on Pattison Avenue, the further you bring it from the building, the more it blocks the architectural arcade that's so important to the visual look of the building when you're approaching by car, especially. Which is how most people.
Yeah. Those would be helpful to see because that strikes me as counterintuitive, but I also don't have the visuals in front of me to understand it.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Amy.
I had a related question. I thought the same thing about the auxiliary building. You know, this building doesn't really have a back side, if you will. The front is the back, the back's the front. What's the best place to locate equipment, whether that be an auxiliary building, future chillers and MEP equipment, whatever they are? Sort of tucked on that same side is a future MEP equipment enclosure with a solid fence, and it's tight up against the building. I'm sort of wondering, is there a place on your property on the site where the auxiliary building and the equipment could be set apart from this wonderful piece of architecture and screened in some way that could still function, you know, and still work well? It's just that when you tuck things so close to the building, it detracts from that original design that we all cherish as a community. So I'm just wondering like John, is there another location where we can get some distance from this really unique arcade and loggia element?
I can jump in there to answer first. That's a really thoughtful question, Amy, and one we asked ourselves early on too. As Tracy mentioned, we did quite a few studies to look at different locations. I will say the MEP equipment that's listed on the drawing, that is future space held for air handlers for the museum to bring everything up to standards. There is currently quite a bit of existing MEP equipment there that has been there for a while. So our intent is to screen what's there now and leave space for future MEP equipment. As Tracy noted, there's quite a bit of elevational change from the Patterson Avenue side to the park side. So in our studies, we found anytime we moved equipment out to the either east or west sides of the building, it actually put it really on a pedestal, a landscape pedestal that was very clearly visible from the interior park side. So our rationale for tucking both the MEP equipment and the auxiliary building close to the building is that it makes it feel of one component, and it doesn't put these sort of service elements on display in the landscape on the sides. It really is, it's hard to tell from the plans, as Tracy noted, but it really is a very prominent hill that the museum sits on. So anything on the east and west is very clearly visible, both from Patterson Avenue and the park side.
Are there heritage trees or something that you're considering?
There are heritage trees as well. The tree that's directly to the left of the auxiliary building in this plan is a heritage oak tree that we have worked very hard to avoid and preserve. We are proposing some tree removals to include the plaza and the parking lot, but it was very important to us and to zoning to try to maintain as many of the trees as possible, particularly the heritage trees. So we're navigating views, we're navigating grade change, we're navigating the programming requirements of the museum, and we're navigating the tree preservation. So there's quite a few factors we juggled and studied in our iterations. We feel strongly that this is the best approach to balance all those components.
And your property line is where your fence line is? Like you don't own the parking lot, that's park property.
Correct.
So you're trying to work within that property boundary as well. Is that correct?
The fence line is our demise premise. All of it is part of FDR Park. We don't control the parking lot in the park, and that's the other beauty of building this small parking lot, is that it will mean we will have some parking available no matter what is happening in the park, which is currently a major issue for the museum when we have things like 5K runs in the park, which happen regularly throughout the summer.
One suggestion for the auxiliary building is that if it was entirely a hipped roof rather than having a gable end, it might be less visible. I'm concerned about viewing it through the arcade, but if it was just a roof that hunkered down all the way around, it might be somewhat less prominent.
Yeah, I agree, Dan. You took the words out of my mouth. I think I appreciate what you did to make this a lovely little structure, but I think in some ways it's too much of it catches your eye too much. I want it to be simple. I mean, as a pedestrian who may or may not know the site, it almost looks like a little visitor center or a little bathroom building or something. And I want it to disappear a little more. So I think hipping the roof on all four sides. And, I appreciate that you're making it look like there's windows in the doors, but there aren't windows in the doors. So, I think if they were just solid brown and the roof hipped, it would still look attractive and relative to the existing building, but it would just help it recede a little more.
And I'm still hung up on the sighting a little bit. I can appreciate that you did studies, and maybe if we were to see them, we would see what you were seeing. I mean, just looking at this topographical plan that we were looking at a minute ago, it feels like there's a little bit of a plateau where it's situated, in that maybe moving it a little to the left. Maybe even rotating it more perpendicular to the curve of the walkway there might offer something. I just feel like it. You talked about being able to see it from Patterson Avenue. I just feel like it's kind of hitting on a broad side and blocking view of the museum itself. So maybe if nothing else for the full commission, have some of those studies added to this packet for consideration or discussion.
I think the two views that we were really thinking about, I forgot to mention the other one, was the cars on Patterson Avenue, because that's the primary audience on Patterson Avenue. We have very few walkers going by. But then on the view through from the museum's terrace and through the arcade was the other thing that we were really considering, because that's the pedestrian view, and that's seen by thousands and thousands of people. And so we do have studies on that I'm sure we can include in the next iteration.
Thank you.
I had a question about the fence along Patterson Avenue, and have you? And then I guess it mentions gates at the ingress and egress drives. Is there a plan about how those gates actually function?
I can help answer that one. That's a great question. There's currently an existing fence all the way around the demarcation line, as Tracy mentioned. It's not a traditionally historic fence. It was installed in the 1990s, but it is, we consider it part of the museum's vernacular. So the intent is for the new gates and any replacement fencing to match that same fence to remain. Additionally, there will be repairs and repainting of the fence to remain along Patterson Avenue frontage, so that entire frontage, when complete, will look uniform and of the same style. And in terms of function, the gates, there'll be 2 pedestrian swing gates at the dedicated pedestrian entry, and then the vehicular gates will have cantilever slide gates that will be controlled. Access will be controlled by the museum, so those gates will be open when the museum's open and closed when the museum is closed.
Thank you for that explanation. The other question I had is the acrylic panels on the side of the ramp, and I'm wondering whether that's really necessary given the level change. Whether you even need it's just a little bit over a 2-foot change.
Yep.
So you're not really required to have guards there.
And acrylic scratches.
Could be a simple railing.
I was just looking to see our architect, Al Wolf. I'm not seeing him elevated. I'm not sure if there's a chance to elevate him now, but in the meantime, I'll maybe just chime in quickly as the landscape architect for the project. We did talk quite a bit about that grade change, and while we feel it's right on the edge of what's required for a guard, given the clientele for the museum, the visitorship, people with strollers, things like that, we thought it would be prudent to provide protection. But I will let, it looks like Al was just elevated. Al, I'll let you chime in a little bit more, please.
Brittany, you hit it on the nose. That's really what we were trying to do, provide additional protection. Right now, there are 2 railings as you approach the main door. You can see them in the plan. Those are black metal railings, and because of the drop off on the side of the ramp, we know that officially you probably don't need those railings as we've drawn them, but we felt it would give an extra level of protection.
I mean, if you drop it down to a 36-inch handrail, it can double as both. And then again, I would strongly disagree with the acrylic. Nothing else, it's going to scratch, and it's going to get very unsightly in a couple of years, I would think. I would rather see some simple pickets, but I also, again, don't think with the amount of change that you have that it's necessary. And I also question the length of the ramp that you have. I think for the way you have it drawn, I don't think it's long enough. It says 24-foot long, but you've got a grade change of greater than 24 inches, and you have a 4-foot landing there. So I think that ramp needs to extend further to meet the 1 in 12 slope requirement. Because I was actually going to suggest, is it even possible to make it a more gradual ramp, something a little bit more gentle of a slope, but I don't have the full site to understand.
I want to respond for Al, but I'm not sure if he's having some trouble with audio, but we can look at the grade change in the length and verify that. The one piece I'll add in is that this front, oh, sorry, Al, there you are. Would you like to chime in?
Sure. Yeah, I'm back. John, the longer the ramp, and we're in favor of having that complied with code, of course, is that a lot of the people that are going to be using this ramp are going to be over to the left. There are a lot of weddings that are held on the plaza. So we need to be sure, and that's why we modified the curve of that courtyard so that people could get to the bottom of the ramp. So we want to comply with code, which would push that a little bit longer, but we don't want to make it too difficult to get up on that ramp.
Yeah, you're going to need at least another 4 feet, 5 feet.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm not sure why that's not drawn correctly, but we will extend that. The other thing is we were concerned about the pickets being too busy. We did have a version that showed that solution, and it seemed like the simpler version was one that appealed to more people. Now, acrylics, we can replace that with some other material.
To your comment about needing to extend it further and sort of the path of where everyone's coming from being further to the left, I think you may need to explore this as a switchback ramp then.
John, why do you see that? I mean, it's a simple ramp. I would think straight on access would be acceptable.
Just thinking in terms of the path of travel, and again, I'm trying to find ways to get rid of that guard, and having a ramp adjacent to it could minimize that, but I won't push on that.
Thanks. I understand.
Do we have other comments or questions from committee members?
Could we talk about the lighting? Could they explain the lighting?
I would be happy to do so. And admittedly, we are very excited about the lighting. It's such a beautiful building. We're excited to shine some light on it. No pun intended, or pun intended, I suppose. Currently, there is facade lighting on the park side near the terrace. On the Patterson Avenue side, the only existing lighting is an emergency egress light mounted to the building right next to the building entrance on Patterson Avenue. So the project includes all new building facade lighting on the Patterson Avenue side to really highlight those architectural details. It includes replacement lighting on the park side so that the quality and coverage of lighting is uniform on all sides of the building. We're also proposing new lighting on the east and west arcades. That's a reflected light that also provides lighting on those adjacent walkways and paths for the public. There is pedestrian scale site lighting, like poles through the plaza area and the parking lot for safety. And there is new lighting proposed on the existing sign on Patterson Avenue, the museum signage. There's lighting at the auxiliary building, And last but not least, we are replacing the light fixtures on the main cupola and adding new light fixtures on the two side cupolas. So if you wouldn't mind moving to the next page, I think you can get a really good visual of the intent here is really to highlight the quality of the building and increase awareness and views, particularly from Patterson Avenue for visitors. Does that help provide enough information to answer any questions? Let me know.
So the light fixture number 7, I see it only on one side along Patterson Avenue. So what's illuminating the east side of the north facade?
That's a great question, John. We can add another label, but if you can, between
I
the
see it
numbers
there.
1 and 8, yeah, there's actually a fixture there. It's just not explicitly called out, so we can add that label. But the idea is the lighting on both sides of that frontage to be equal and of the same quality.
And then the light fixture number 6 mounted on the side of the shed. What role is that serving? I mean, it's illuminating a walkway that's not even the main walkway.
That's a great question. That's a light that will be in the soffit of the auxiliary building. And as Alan Tracy mentioned, the museum hosts quite a few weddings, and there's a third-party caterer that uses the site frequently. And the intent is for them to use that area for staging. They do a lot of work bussing dishes and things like that. So it provides a dedicated area for them with lighting and paving.
So those lights could be switched off when they're
correct.
Yeah.
Okay, that will make a big difference.
Yeah. That was my question too.
Brittany, what lighting is mounted to the building, or is it all site and pole mounted, which does make a difference? Looks like maybe lighting type 2 might be mounted to buildings, to masonry, to the building facade.
This is a great question. We tried really hard to not touch the building as much as possible. So both fixtures 1 and 2 are ground mounted fixtures that provide a wash up the facade. And those same fixtures repeat along the arcade. Fixtures 9 at the cupolas, there are existing fixtures up there that we will be replacing. They're mounted on struts that are clamped to the standing seam roof. So we are reusing those same mounting locations for that. So no changes there. We'll likely take a similar approach for the new lighting at the side cupolas. So long story short, to answer your question, the only traditionally building mounted light fixture is number 3 on this diagram, and that is strictly to replace the fixture that's there now. It's a much more utilitarian commercial spotlight kind of fixture, and so we're proposing to replace it with more of a traditional sconce that is modern and in keeping with the new site lighting, but we think is more related to the really truly historical lighting on the park side.
Right, as we jump around, question going back to the Patterson Avenue side for a minute, it mentions the stone veneer on the site walls there, and what type of stone is that?
We're
sure that go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. We're proposing a quartzite sandstone. The really beautiful steps on the park side of the museum are limestone, which is absolutely beautiful. But we find it can be very susceptible to water damage and freeze thaw over time. So the quartzite sandstone we're proposing is way less porous. It's much more durable. It's suitable for the freeze thaw conditions we have here. So we're proposing it for both the walls and the stairs. And it's from Russell Stone Quarries. I don't know if you're all familiar. They supply quite a bit of stone throughout the city. So it's not a true match to the limestone on the other side, but we feel strongly that it's still in keeping with the Philadelphia vernacular and complements still the building and the architecture.
It looks like you've been able to get a pretty good match.
Are your stair nosings 90-degree corners, or are they rounded like the existing site steps that you're seeing?
We're planning to do a little bit of a rounded edge just for ease of visitors. Our intent is to have the site work feel sympathetic to the building and the historic features without directly replicating. So we'll take inspiration from those stairs without directly replicating those stair nosings.
All right, do we have other comments from committee members? Is there public comment?
No hands are raised.
All right, then who'd like to make a motion?
I will attempt to make one. I think in general it's approval of the proposed additions to the project in the work and going with the staff recommendations of in accordance with standard 9. I would request that the applicant look at the ramp and look at the use of acrylic panels and also re-look at the location and the design of the accessory building to make sure that it is in keeping with the design of the historic building that's 100 years old.
So,
Attempt.
yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure what I'm voting on here. Are we saying it's approved or not approved then?
I don't I think what I'm saying is the auxiliary building as presented is not approved.
Okay, and same thing with the ramp.
And the same thing with the ramp.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
But they can be approved with some tweaks, I guess.
Okay. Okay, with that clarification, I will second.
All right, then, unless I hear otherwise, we have unanimous consent.
Aye.
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 All right, well, thank you for taking us through all of the elements of this proposal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that ends our agenda for today.
Good.
All right, well, thank you all, and
Have a good
we'll see you next month.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.